The biblical origins of Brazilians, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, and fellow seekers of knowledge. It is a profound honor to address you today on a topic that intertwines faith, history, and cultural identity, the biblical origins of Brazilians. While Brazil is a diverse country with roots from indigenous populations, European settlers, and enslaved Africans, we must also recognize the influence of the Christian faith and the Bible in shaping the nation's cultural and spiritual foundations. As we embark on this journey, we must first acknowledge that Brazil, like many other nations, has been profoundly shaped by Christianity since the arrival of Portuguese colonizers in the 16th century. In fact, Brazil's Christian identity and its roots in the biblical narrative are inseparable. However, today, we will specifically explore how biblical teachings and stories have resonated with and influenced Brazilian culture and identity. It's a biblical concept of sons of Noah in the Bible, particularly in the book of Genesis. We learn about the three sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These three men are traditionally considered to be the ancestors of all the nations of the world. The narrative in Genesis 9:18-19 Niv states, "The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. From them came the people who were scattered over the earth." When we look at the biblical genealogies, we see that these three sons are linked to various peoples and regions of the world. In the case of Brazil, there is a commonly held belief that the Brazilian people, as part of the wider Latin American and Iberian family, could trace some of their spiritual and cultural heritage back to the descendants of Japheth. Though the Bible does not directly mention Brazil, its teachings about the spreading of nations, the scattering of peoples, and the diverse creation of languages and cultures are themes that reflect the unity and diversity we see in Brazil today. The diversity of Brazil's people, with its indigenous tribes, African influences, and European heritage, mirrors the expansive nature of the biblical story of humanity spread across the earth. The influence of Christianity and the Bible on Brazil. In the 16th century, Portuguese colonization brought Catholicism to Brazil. The missionaries and explorers who arrived on Brazilian shores brought with them the Christian Bible, a book that would go on to shape the spiritual and moral framework of Brazil. Today, the majority of Brazilians identify as Christian, with Catholicism and Protestantism being the most widely practiced denominations. Brazil's deep-rooted connection to Christianity has led to the country being home to vibrant Christian communities, and this faith is expressed in many aspects of daily life, from religious festivals to family traditions to the country's art and music. The Bible has significantly influenced Brazilian culture, especially through religious celebrations such as Carnival, which, despite its secularized aspects, its origins tied to Christian feasts like Lent. The Bible also plays a central role in Brazilian society in shaping ethical and moral values, from notions of justice and compassion to a deep reverence for family and community. The Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5-7, for example, has echoed in the way many Brazilians view kindness, humility, and the pursuit of peace. Brazilian Christian values and social identity. Brazil's cultural values are not only derived from biblical teachings, but also shaped by the Christian concept of brotherhood and the unity of humankind. Brazil's historical struggle against slavery, the fight for civil rights, and the promotion of social justice in modern times often find their grounding in the Christian principles of freedom and equality. The Bible's teachings on love, justice, and the inherent worth of all people resonate deeply within Brazilian society. One verse that stands out in understanding Brazilian social values is Galatians 3:28 Niv. "There is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus." This verse has been a cornerstone for movements in Brazil, advocating for racial equality, women's rights, and social reform, especially as the country worked to address the legacies of colonialism, slavery, and segregation. Indigenous and Afro-Brazilian connections to the Bible. Interestingly, the Bible's impact in Brazil goes beyond its Christian roots. Indigenous Brazilian cultures, with their rich spiritual practices, have also interacted with Christian teachings in unique ways. Many indigenous people in Brazil have incorporated Christian narratives into their own spiritual traditions, often blending biblical stories with their ancestral beliefs. For the Afro-Brazilian community, Christianity, especially through the teachings of the Bible, has been a source of strength, particularly during the period of slavery. The Exodus narrative, where the Israelites are freed from slavery in Egypt, became a powerful symbol of liberation for African slaves in Brazil. They found in the Bible a source of hope and a message of freedom. A conclusion rooted in hope and unity as we reflect on the biblical origins and influences on Brazil. We must acknowledge that while the Bible does not specifically mention the land we now know as Brazil, the principles of unity, brotherhood, and faith that are central to its teachings are alive in the spirit of the Brazilian people. The Bible has shaped the nation's values, informed its struggles for justice, and inspired its quest for freedom. Brazil, like the nations described in the Bible, continues to unfold its own story, a story of diverse peoples coming together, finding common purpose, and living in harmony with one another under the values of love, justice, and peace. May we all be reminded of these timeless principles as we continue to grow and evolve. Just as the biblical narrative has carried humanity from its earliest days, so too can it guide us today toward a future of unity and hope.